AI Limit. At a glance, a post-apocalyptic Souls-like that places us in the perspective of a newly awakened amnesiac stranger. But there's a certain depth to this game and an unspoken twist in its story that I actually didn't pick up on until my second playthrough. And that's what I want to talk about today. Fair warning, and I really like this game, so this video will be a bit biased, but I hope you enjoy it nonetheless. And for those who don't want spoilers, well, this video is full of them, so please watch at your own risk. By the way, allow me to introduce myself. I am the Goblin King, and I will be walking you through this video today. Nice to meet you. I'll be narrating this all, so I hope you really enjoy it. Alright, let's get started. Before we get to the aforementioned twist, I obviously need to explain the basics about the game and what the hell is going on in it. Please understand that my primary focus isn't the lore of the entire game, but on one particular set of people and their story. So if I miss anything or get something wrong, just let me know and I'll pin it. Thanks. We wake up as an amnesiac woman in the sewers, truly rat-maxing. We crawl around and fight these nasty monsters called the Void, as well as what appear to be pretty advanced robotic enemies. For basic understanding, the Void were seemingly the first odd non-human creatures to appear, and appear to be driven primarily by their instincts. They will attack you on sight, and then finally we meet what appears to be the first non-hostile person, Asteria. This nice lady with the very long feet tells us that we are a blader, whatever that means. We'll get to that. She procures a cool sword and basically tells us to fuck around and find out. With minimal direction and a penchant for killing monsters, we fight our way out and make our way to an actual populated outpost of sorts. Here is where we meet two of the most important figures in the entire game. There is Delpha, the amnesiac botanist, and Shirley, an unassuming young girl searching for her own truth as a pilgrim, as well as her parents, who she has never met. When he sees us for the first time, Delpha seems to mistake us for someone else, someone named
Ursula?
He then shakes it off, seemingly not even knowing who he was referring to, and apologizes. He explains his strange memory loss as well as his profession. Delpha then explains to us that in this current age, plant life is non-existent. Over 100 years ago, the last plants died out permanently. How have humans survived? Well, with mud. No, not that mud. This is mud, a strange substance that seems to have an artificial quality and is able to be consumed by humans and other organisms for sustenance. No one seems to know where it came from or why it's here, but it enables survival. We discover that the most advanced academics from the past were able to refine this mud for the purpose of survivability. Delpha seems to believe there is a connection between the appearance of mud and the plants dying out. He asks that if we come across any soil samples while we travel, that we will allow him to analyze them with his handy-dandy microscope. Just like Steve from Blue's Clues. Anyway, we'll get back to that. As we go and speak with Shirley, she tells us of the church and of Ether the Father, which is our first hint at the infrastructure of this world and who runs it. Clearly, we are absolutely lost, and Shirley asks us what our name is. Well, we have no idea. Shirley, being the absolute paragon of kindness, names us Arissa. She gives us a pilgrim seal that allows us to advance through the path ahead, and tells us she will be fine as long as she travels with the others. As we continue through the area, we come across bandits, as well as a new type of enemy, something called the Necros. These strange and powerful enemies seem to propagate and come from underground, and are a bit reminiscent of the Flood from Halo, if any of you remember that. Remember? Hey, remember Halo? Remember when that was good? Remember when Halo was good? Yeah, me too. Progressing through, we can see that the Necros have the ability to infect other life. We come across several bladers that have either gone mad or succumbed to the infection. Speaking of bladers, let's touch on that, since we now have our main factions listed out. There are humans, of course. Those still exist, but in smaller numbers than when the world was full of them. We have the Void, the Necros, the Church, and the Bladers. But what are they exactly? They aren't human, we know that much. From what we can gather, these factions appeared around the same time, over 100 years ago, around the time plant life died out, and humanity began slowly going extinct. Monsters called Necros ran rampant, killing indiscriminately. The Church provided structure and something to believe in, as well as protection. The Bladers were more of freelance fighters, it would seem, traveling from place to protect and fight for humans. This is the most basic explanation of the powers that be without revealing too much yet. So let's continue. As we fight through, we meet a new character named Stone, who tells us there is more to pilgrims in the church than meets the eye, and to ring his little bell if we come across any pilgrims. Okay, sure, man. Whatever you want. Oh my god. Oh my god. We travel through a multitude of unique areas with branching pathways, the ruined sunken city, where two rival human factions fight over resources, the withered forests of Twilight Hill, where the Hunters Guild of Human Warriors fights against the Necros, the flooded street, where we can witness more of humanity's final buildings and infrastructure, then to Hyos Patir, where the church reigns supreme. Along the way, we fight several tough opponents, gaining experience, knowledge, weapons, technique. We even meet a totally super nice and trustworthy scientist, Dr. Adremelech, and his assistant, Assis. I am certain this man is extremely benevolent. We also meet some interesting Blader friends, but we'll gloss over that as it isn't really the main focus right now. They have their own stories. I'm focused on this one. Along the way, Orisa seemingly becomes more of a person, if that makes sense. She begins understanding what it means to be human, as she watches the humans around her struggle and die and search for meaning. Shirley is an amazing example of this. We encounter her many times along this journey as she follows her own path. We learn that she can sense things that no normal human should be capable of. But what exactly does this mean? We see Shirley herself begin to doubt if she'll ever find her parents, as she begins losing both her willpower and her companions. Even her Necro Guardian, given to her by her grandfather, was slain by one of the hunters from the guild. Yo, R.I.P. little Necro. Why was that Necro so docile anyway? This raises more questions. We'll be finding out shortly what this all means and how it ties together, so bear with me. Orisa discovers more and more of the truth as she continues forward. We encounter a dangerous enemy, only known as the Hunter of Bladers. We are defeated and must escape a strange factory after being taken captive. We also find some interesting notes about this place, as well as Shirley's old bunny doll named Orisa. This is where Shirley grew up, under the watchful eye of the scientist Adremelech. Remember him from earlier? That super nice guy? That guy who managed to control a Necro to look after Shirley? How did he do that? Why were we trapped in this facility that he seemingly owns? What is his connection to the Hunter of Bladers? For now, we'll just have to buckle our seatbelts and find out, because there have clearly been some horrendous experiments occurring in this facility, and even some sort of necro-related research. Let's take another look at Delpha for a sec. After enough soil samples have been given to our friend Delpha, he becomes greatly discouraged. Each sample we give him is seemingly worse than the last. But when hope seems lost, we hand him the sample we found at the Arboretum. This appears to jog his memory a bit, and then he tells us that he'll be relocating, right over there, at the Arboretum. Once we meet Delpha at the Arboretum and give him the final sample, it seems that he's regained most of his memories. He tells us his story. Delpha, he was a part of the Hubert School, wanting to focus on studying soil samples and perhaps aiding in the return of plant life to Earth. Along the way, he met a Blader, like us, a woman named Ursula, who was apparently a widely renowned hero. Over time, they grew close, but during a devastating Necro attack, they were separated. She saved him, but a head injury caused him to lose his memories. This was all well over a decade ago. Delpha has been wandering along like a husk for over a decade, and questions why he could recall being a researcher, but not the most important person in his life. Regardless, he thanks us for our help in regaining his memories and aiding with his research. But that isn't where this ends. What happened 13 years ago? Well, buckle up, because we are going right back to the factory, back to where we first discovered the atrocities and the room where Shirley grew up. See, we know that Shirley was raised here. We know she snuck out to look for her parents, which is why she joined the pilgrimage. After a long trek and a lot of fighting, we discover a memory in the depths of this factory. The memory is odd and around 13 years old. In it, Adremelech discusses that he discovered a young woman unconscious nearby. After running some diagnostics, he uncovered that she was not human at all, that her biological makeup was almost entirely mud. Does that remind you of anyone? But what really ties us together is what he says next. Yes, what you just saw was correct. Within this woman, this unconscious woman that Dr. Adremelech found and brought in and analyzed, was a human embryo, protected in a mud placenta. This Blader was pregnant. Adremelech took the child and raised her in a lab setting. And the mother? Well, we have to fight her. That is correct. Ursula. once a proud blader and hero, reduced to being puppeteered by this vile little roach of a scientist. We defeat her, but it is far too late. Repeated use of the Necro control spell has left her severely infected. Even if she were to respawn at the branch, she's finished. She asks us to sever her from the branch and set her free, and to pass on her love and last words to Delpha, along with the living seed, possibly the last living seed on Earth. She tells us that the mud is the final piece of the puzzle and that Delpha will know what to do next. With her words of encouragement echoing to him through us, Delpha puts together the seed and the branch within the mud, stimulating the rapid growth of new plant life. His dream did come true, and it is possible to repeat this. There is still hope. But what about Shirley? After breaching the utmost depths of Hyos Batir, we see her one final time. She is standing on the precipice of the abyss, wondering what even was the point of it all. Her parents, she never knew them, never found them. Her life to her feels like some sort of cruel joke. When you hand her the doll she left behind, she apologizes for naming you after it. She asks you to throw it into the void because it reminds her of a past she would rather forget. We take a moment to return to Delpha, explaining Shirley's fragile mental state. Being a good father is hard and respectable. Being a good father to a daughter that you don't even know is yours? Even more commendable. Good job, Delpha. He hands you the fruits of his life of labor, the small flower produced by the plant that you grew together. Ursula, Delpha, Shirley. 3 people separated, 3 lives left in absolute tatters. And then, amidst the despair and chaos, new life bloomed and connected them once more. Showing Shirley this flower lifts her spirits and shows her that there is still hope for this world and for mankind. And she only asks that we come back to her. We promise her that we will return and help her rebuild this broken world alongside Delpha and the others. It is within the heart of Hyos Batir that we learn the full truth of what happened to humanity. The development of advanced AI, which then became 3 incredibly powerful entities, Ether, Charon, and Nyx. The humans began worshiping them as gods, and eventually, these AI entities evolved far beyond anything humanity could have ever imagined. Then came the war that ruined the planet and humanity itself. These 3 entities all wanted one thing, evolution, but they disagreed on which path would yield the evolution they sought. So they fought, and humanity became nothing but dreck and collateral. Plant life withered as the entities created mud, and from that mud, they created new synthetic life forms. The Void were simply a faulty prototype. The finalized models for each of these factions of AI were Bladers, Necros, and the Church. After defeating Ether the Father, it is clear that they recognize Orisa as the next stage of evolution. She is the culmination of ultimate physicality with the heart of a human. They offer her leadership, and she declines, much to their chagrin. After a brief scuttle with Charon, she swipes our data, and the 3 of them just bid us farewell, promising to stay out of our way since we are determined to remain with humanity instead of lead the AI gods. So, at this point, you might be asking yourself, what is this game really about? Well, we can look at it this way. Orisa is for all intents and purposes a god at this point. She has surpassed her creators and yet chose to remain with humanity. Why? Because Orisa is human at her core. After all of her experiences, she came to understand what it means to be human. Perseverance and love in the face of overwhelming despair and insurmountable odds. She chose to stay because to leave now would go against everything that she holds dear. And if that isn't human, then I don't know what is. More importantly, this video is about my interpretation of the story of 3 very important people in this game. Ursula, a blader who fell in love and never knew she was a mother. Delpha, a human who loved, lost, and regained love again. And Shirley, a daughter who was searching for someone who was right there all along. 3 people whose lives were ripped apart. Not by monsters, not by AI gods, even if they were the greater cause of the events that occurred thereafter. But no, these 3 were ripped apart by one evil man, and then they were brought back together, at least in spirit, by perseverance, unyielding willpower, and a love that never gave up, a love that even persisted while remaining both forgotten and unknown. There is always meaning in love, and always meaning in putting your next foot forward. Because sometimes, especially when all seems lost, the most important step you can take is the next one. You can thank Brandon Sanderson for that line, by the way. Thank you so much if you stuck around for all of that. This was my first sort of lore style video, and I really hope I was able to communicate what I wanted to get across without being muddy, no pun intended. For those who are still listening and watching, this isn't my usual content style. I usually run a comedy style gaming experience on Twitch and YouTube, but I just really felt inspired to talk about this game that I really enjoy, and kind of like my experience with finding out this story that I completely missed on my first playthrough. And I don't know, it just kind of made me giddy and got me into like a little creative mood, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to yap about it. So thank you so much for sticking around if you did. If you're interested in any of that, just come check us out sometime. Until next time, stay safe, grow strong bones, and keep gobbling. Get it? Goblin. Get it? 3,000 damage, baby. Right to the face. Fuck you, Doc.